Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Mr. Fincham's Fireside Follow-Alongs, and today we're going to be continuing on with Beyond the Horizon. As always, we're going to do a little recap before we move into the next part of the story. Let's recap the whole thing, because I feel like it's been a while since we've done one of these. So, we initially in the story met Sarah. She was the daughter of a man who owned a very prosperous trading boat called the Trades Increase, and her father was on his way to India to set up a trading post and to make some money, right? It's going to be a long journey to get to India, and Sarah decided, hey, I don't want to go that long without seeing my father. Therefore, I'm going to sneak onto the boat with him. How do I do that without being recognized and caught? Well, I'll create a disguise. So she created a disguise, cut her hair, and snuck on board under the guise of kind of like an assistant chef or an assistant to the cook, right? Fast forward a little bit in the story, and they make it to India, and she starts chasing the cat, Tom, into this foreign city that she has never been before, right? She's not familiar with the city. A cart hits her and she is injured, knocked unconscious. She awakes to find that she is being cared for by a girl named Priya. Here is a picture of Priya and her mother. They live in a small village in tiny mud huts. And Sarah is pretty badly injured. She can't get out of bed. And she is needing to rest. But that's a problem, because she doesn't know where she's at in the city. She needs to make it back to the ship before the ship takes off without her, right? Because the captain, which is her father, said, look, if we don't get this passenger from our ship back in the next day, well, too bad. We got to leave anyways. So time is of the essence here. She needs to get back to the boat. And with that short recap, we are going to start on page 40. Right here on page 39 is Priya and her mother, and they are making some dung cakes to fuel the fire that they can use to cook on. So, without further ado, let's continue on with Beyond the Horizon. Oh, and before I forget, I'm going to recap the questions that go along with the reading for today. So, the reading and writing task. What communication problems do Sarah and Priya's family face? How are they able to overcome some of these difficulties? So, communication problems. What kind do they face? Do they speak the same language? I don't know. And text to self-connection. You now know what has happened with the Trades Increase. What are your next steps? This is the 17th century in India. There were not telephones, telegrams, the internet. Explain how you would adapt to your new home. And the extension. How was Sarah's role with Priya's family different from her role on the Trades Increase? So what did she do? What was her job on the Trades Increase? Now, how is that different than her job with Priya's family? You guys tell me. Our book talk was moved to Wednesday this week, so make sure that you guys are checking the newsletter carefully. There is also a video linked in our newsletter, the video of an Indian bazaar. You guys should check that out as well. So now that I've caught you guys up and read the questions, now we can begin page 40, Beyond the Horizon. How did I get here? Sarah asked finally, but Priya just smiled back. Me, here. Sarah tried again as she pointed to herself and to the ground. Priya thought for a moment, sweeping her hair behind her shoulder. Then she squatted beside Sarah and drew shapes in the dust. She drew a cart hitting a person and pointed at Sarah. Then she mimed carrying a weight and pointed at the water buffalo tethered next to the hut. So you put me on your water buffalo and brought me here? Asked Sarah. Priya beamed. Jiha. Thank you, said Sarah, as she reached out and squeezed Priya's hand. Priya blushed. What about my ship, the Trades Increase? Sarah reached for a twig, and in the dirt, she sketched a ship with many sails. So because they can't speak the same language, they're kind of drawing images in order to communicate, right? So here's a picture of Sarah now. Priya looked apologetic. She hadn't understood. She called her grandmother over to look. They chatted briefly, but neither seemed to know what Sarah was trying to say. Dottie gave Sarah a dish with what looked like cooked spinach and a flat piece of bread. She raised her fingers to her lips. Kana, she said. Food. Sarah suddenly realized just how hungry she was. Page 42. Picture of some chickens. First paragraph. Sarah lay under the tree for much of the day, slipping in and out of sleep. Through half-opened eyes, she watched as Pariah swept the hard dirt outside her home with a broom made from twigs and tidied the rooms inside. Then she watched as Pariah milked the glossy skinned buffalo, tiny darts of milk slowly filling up her earthenware bowl. Dottie sat next to Sarah, sifting rice in a flat basket, picking out the bad husks and throwing them to the chickens that clucked and fussed around them. So, sounds like they're kind of doing household chores here, right? The parents are kind of cooking, Pariah is kind of cleaning up a little bit. Not much different than Americans. Next page, page 43. Some more chickens here. Even though her heart was uneasy, Sarah couldn't help but think how peaceful things were here, how different from the life she had left behind on the ship. The huts made of warm earth, the dark-skinned girl with the headscarf and nose ring, and the lilting tongue she spoke in. These poor farmers had little, thought Sarah. They had no more than 2 rooms and a few animals, but they hadn't thought twice about rescuing a stranger from harm and taking care of her. They had saved her life, there was no doubt about it. Dottie had graced her with a remedy and kindness, and yet Sarah's father and the others thought them barbarous. How wrong they were. So if you remember, he had told Sarah, he told his daughter, look, India is no place for a small girl. They're barbarous. In other words, they're barbarians. Is Sarah being treated like a barbarian here? No. They helped heal her wound. They gave her a bed to sleep and rest in. They're feeding her, right? So they're actually being very kind. Anytime you try to say all of those people, or, all of this nation, all of this kind of person is bad or good, be careful. Because there's always an exception, okay? You can't make giant generalizations like that. All boys are this, or all girls are this. No, it could be most, it could be a lot, but it's almost never all. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind for the future. Now we're going to go to page 44. First paragraph. By the afternoon, Sarah felt strong enough to get to her feet and help Pariah collect water from the river. At the riverbank, she watched as the other women went in to bathe, keeping themselves covered with their clothes. Sarah found a sheltered spot among some reeds and stripped down to her undershirt. It felt good to get clean. When she came out, she noticed her clothes on the bank were gone, and in their place was a purple dress with a matching scarf, all made of simple cotton. A girl's dress, one of Pariah's, so they weren't fooled by her boy's disguise after all. Sarah quickly changed. These were much better than Henry's ill-fitting clothes, which were caked in dirt. Now that she had a dress, she was glad she'd allowed her hair to grow a bit longer on the journey. When Pariah and the other women saw Sarah, they broke into giggles. "Tum Sundar Ho," said Pariah, her eyes bright. She was telling Sarah she looked beautiful. Now we're going to page 45, and here is a picture of Sarah, her hair a little bit longer now since the journey started, right? In her brand new purple attire, her purple dress. What do you guys think? Better than the clothes that she was wearing previously, right? Pretending that she was a boy cook. All right, and we're going to go to page 46. First paragraph. At sunset, Priya's father returned home, the baskets on the back of his cart empty. Sarah wondered if he'd been selling his vegetables in the city. Priya's father unharnessed his water buffalo and tethered it beside the other. Then he unraveled the cloth wrapped around his head while Priya brought him a bowl of water to wash in. Dottie busied himself making his dinner. Priya's father nodded at Sarah and seemed pleased to see her dressed in one of his daughter's saris. For the first time, Sarah realized she hadn't seen Priya's mother. Had she passed away, as Sarah's had? Next paragraph. Priya and her father talked while he rinsed his face, neck, and hands and prepared himself to eat. Priya tried to find Sarah's drawing of a ship in the dirt to show her father. Sarah quickly drew another, and then she drew the coat of arms, 2 ships on a shield. She pointed at herself and then at the drawings. Priya's father nodded. He understood. He put down his chapati and slowly mimed the rolling waves, the winding path of a ship. In any language, the meaning was clear. The ship had sailed. Sarah turned her head away and began to cry. So now, she is crying, I feel like, as we probably, most of us here would. She's trapped in a foreign country, away from her father, which, keep in mind, this was the whole point of the journey, was to stay with her father. It's why she came. And now, the ship has left without her. So now she's stuck in this family who, yes, they're treating her nice. They're treating her in a very lovely way. Literally giving them the clothes off of their backs, right? But now her father's gone. The ship is gone. She's stuck in a place where she doesn't really know where she is exactly. She knows what country, but she has no idea what city or town, right? Doesn't speak the same language. Doesn't know anybody. Completely different way of life. She's shocked at this, which is why she's crying, right? She doesn't know what to do to get out of this situation. So, of course, yes, she's crying. Page 47. Here is an image of what Sarah drew in the dirt. So, it is a ship. It's a pretty good drawing of a ship. And she drew it in order to kind of communicate with Priya and her father, like, hey, I came from a ship at your ports, right? That's where I came from. I need to go back there. And when Priya's father kind of broke the news to her, hey, you're not going to be going back anytime soon because that ship has literally sailed, she cried. So that is where we're going to end our story for today. This is a pretty interesting story to me. I when I had read it the first time, I wasn't expecting this. I don't know how many of you could expect this, but a little bit of a twist, right? I thought for sure that they would reunite with the boat, but now it doesn't seem so clear. Before we sign off for the day, I am going to reread the questions that go along with today's reading. Again, this can be found on our newsletter. And here is the reading and writing task. What communication problems do Sarah and Priya's family face? How are they able to overcome some of these difficulties? So, there's a communication between Sarah and Priya's family. How do they overcome that? What do they do to get around it? And the text-to-self connection. You now know what has happened with the trade's increase. Remember, that's the father's ship. You know what happened to the ship. What are your next steps? This is the 17th century in India. There were not telephones or telegraphs or the internet. Explain how you would adapt to your new home. So if you were stuck here with some strangers, yes, they are kind, but they're strangers nonetheless. You're stuck here now. How do you adapt? What do you do? What are your next steps? Once the tears dry up and you're done crying, what's the game plan here? Right? This is the 17th century. This is in a country where no one speaks your language. How do you get out of this? How do you survive? Do you leave and try to find someone else near the docks that speaks English? Do you stay with Priya? What do you do? Do you just try to learn the language that they speak and live your life this way now? What are your options here? I'd be interested to hear your guys' thoughts on that. And the last question, the extension. How is Sarah's role with Priya's family different from her role on the Trades Increase? And remember, there is a video. I'm going to try to add it to the ELA, the extra ELA video sections, but there has been quite a few that have not allowed me to do that. So I'm hoping that this one will. If you cannot find it there, then just remember it's going to be on our newsletter. So you guys can just click the link from there. Again, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts. Please let me know what you think of the story so far. Let me know if you have any questions. You can write me on Seesaw. You can email me. Any of those things. I can't wait to hear what you guys are thinking about this. So, hope you enjoyed the story. Thank you for following along with me. As always, I appreciate your guys' effort that you've been putting into your work and the thought and the creativity you guys have put into your writings. It's really been awesome to read, and I can see you guys slowly getting better as time goes on, which is great. So thank you guys. And without further ado, we're going to call it a day. I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.